and welcome everyone to today's video. As I said previously, I'm going to move on from Queen's Gambit Declined. I hope from the last couple of videos you get an idea what we are aiming for there and how we did the course with which goals. So yeah, now the King's Indian is the next opening. And today's game is Bareyev against Moran. It was played in 1982. So against the King's Indian, we recommend the Averbakh system, which of course starts with this bishop e2 move, and normally the next move is bishop to g5. So the main point of this system that it makes it really difficult for black to play against our king, which is the dream of the King's Indian players. So before going into main lines and more theoretical lines, there is an interesting option already at this move for black, which is e5. So playing this move before short castling normally doesn't really matter that much, because the majority of white players will play knight f3, and after short castle we are entering heavy theory. For example, the Mar-del-Plata variation, which is the absolute main line of the King's Indian. So this is I'm talking about knight c65, 97, and here 91, and many other systems, of course, available for white. But we want to play the Averbakh, and of course bishop g5 is not a good move now because of ed4, and our queen has to come to d4, where it will be on the diagonal of the bishop, or knight c6 tempo, and so on. Even maybe h6 right away is a good move for black. And if we play d5, it's not again 100% that we can transpose into the positions we want to play, because, for example, how Gatakamsky likes to play this with black is to play some knight a6 right away with ideas like knight c5, and to delay this to delay short castling, and in many cases it can result in such things that g4 can be like very effectively answered by h5. So if you are interested a little bit in more of these things, then you can check out a few games of Gatakamsky. So I believe the most principled and most challenging for black in this position is to take on e5. D takes on e5, queen takes on d8, and king takes on d8. So normally the exchange variations of against the King's Indian are considered to be harmless and pretty good for black, but the difference here is that the king is in the center, and that's a huge difference. That if the king would be on g8 and the rook on d8, I would say black is already probably better in this position, or at least easier to play for black. But here it's not the case. Here we will make everything within our power to make it difficult for that king in the center. And therefore our next move is a little bit anti-positional, or even not just a little bit, but it's a very strong move, I believe. So we just cannot, we are not waiting for such thing that black is playing bishop e6, e6, king c7, knight e7. So just finishing the development, and long term, what we have, we have a weak square on d4 while black is covering on d5. So just a long-term issue for us. But we play f4. So immediately creating some tension in the center. Once again, positionally, it's not so good because it's opening this bishop. After e takes f4, eventually our structure will be not so great with this pawn on e4. But what we will get is huge activity for our pieces, and that's the most important in this line, as we will see. So knight c6, I believe that's the best move for black. In the course, there are many other moves analyzed. For example, knight d7 is a move, but it blocks the bishop. Knight bd7, the same issue. It blocks the bishop and it doesn't control the d4 square. e takes f4 too early allows quick development for white. So there are issues with every move. Knight c6, I believe, is the most logical. Knight f3, and now bishop e6. Also, this one looks like the most logical to me. So now we don't really want to play fe5. I mean, it looks pretty ugly at this moment. I mean, it's still a possibility, but let's say after knight g4 or knight d7. Okay, we can get similar positions like in the game or like in general in this variation, but we are just giving more possibilities for black, like maybe playing h6 at some moment, and then only then take on e5. And we will see one other option. So it's just simply much better to castle, because fe5 also can happen with e takes f4, so to say. So it's the same trade. Eventually, the structure will be the same. And there is a nice extra option. So, for example, if black doesn't want to take, but just to want to move his king to a safer square, which is b7, for example, then one typical idea, which is good to know in this particular variation, is to play f5. So once the rook arrives on f1, this tactical idea is possible, and it's very awkward to meet. So normally black takes. I mean, if he doesn't take, it doesn't change much. I mean, we can go with knight g5, maybe even later g4, and put huge pressure and big space advantage on the king side. So normally black takes. This we take. And again, if the bishop moves to d7, we play knight g5 with attack on f7. Eventually, the knight can settle on e4, which is a beautiful square, and we can just develop with bishop e3. So it's definitely an advantage for white. And if black takes, then knight d5 is maybe an even bigger advantage thanks to this hanging bishop on f5. Now our structure is actually better, and the d4 square is not really an outpost anymore. We will trade on c6 most probably. So it's good to keep this f5 option, and in general, if black is not taking on f4 for a while, it's with the bishop on e6, it is always something to look for. So in this game, black took on f4, which is very normal. Bishop takes f4, knight d7. So yeah, I mean, statically speaking, like pawn structure and like long-term prospects, black has an excellent position. But for now, we are very much in the middle game, even without the queens, and it's tough to play for black. So rook d1, very logical, bringing a new piece into the game and pinning the knight. So black plays king c8, again, most natural move, and we go knight d5. So we always go for the most active in this system, and we like to create threats, even the most simple of threats. So we want to take on c7. Of course, such moves like bishop takes d5 are not even coming into consideration for black, because we can just I mean, I guess ed and cd are both fine. I would take with ed, and the position, I mean, our pawn structure will be all of a sudden better than black's. We are getting the pair of bishops, and the e2 bishop will be soon very active. So black should block and protect the c7 pawn this way. And here there are two possible moves. We don't really want to exchange a lot of pieces. I mean, that's not in our interest, for example, to take here and just to make it easy for that knight to occupy this nice square, and then black can play some b6, king b7, or maybe even c6. And yeah, we don't want to trade, don't want to give such easy life for black. So in an older game than this one, Polugaevsky against Stein played knight d4, which is also an interesting move, but what happened in this game, knight g5, I like much more, because it's not only hitting the bishop, it's also hitting f7 and h7. So it's a better square for the knight, in my opinion. But there is just one really nice thing in that game, which I would like to show you, just again illustrate that how things can develop in this line. So knight d4, c6 was played, knight e7 check, king c7. And one typical idea again with the bishop on e6 and knight on d7 is that we can jump with the knight to f5, because once black is taking with the pawn, he takes, many times trapping the bishop. Now he's trapping because of the pin on the king, so bishop c4 is simply not possible to take on c4. So great position. So bishop takes f5 should be played, and it was played. He takes on f5, rook e8, bishop g3, king c8 out of the pin. Black is playing very good. I mean, the position is close to equality here. White played knight b3. And if black would have played here the correct move, knight f6, position is absolutely with mutual chances. I mean, our problem is that the knight on b3 and the bishop on e2 is hard to activate. But they have a great potential, which means that it's also very hard to move black pieces, because, just imagine a bishop once coming to g4, for example, or, this knight somehow coming around to d6. So yeah, position is in balance, very complicated, and just for any result is possible here. But instead, knight b6 was played, which also looks very normal, attacking on c4. And for example, if c5, then knight can come to d5. And black is doing very well. But here black missed a very unusual tactical idea from white. You can stop the video and try to find this rare idea, which works beautifully for white. So it is f takes on g6, and black played shocking move f6, but that's actually probably the best move in the position. The problem with f takes g6, and this is the point of the combination, is rook to f7, which is extremely easy to blunder. So basically, rook is entering to the 7th rank, attacking the bishop on g7, and if knight takes on f7, then there is bishop g4. It's not a checkmate, but it's very close. So knight d7 is the only, so the bishops are beautifully attacking the king, and once again, even without the queens, we can have such positions and attacks in this opening line. So knight d7, bishop d7, king d8, and we can already cash in with one taking a pawn and then taking the rook, for example, but knight c5 is even much better, having ideas like knight b7, knight e6 sometimes. Position is bishop e6. Position is completely lost for black. So yeah, I just wanted to show this really nice idea, which did not happen in the game because black in time realized what is happening, but it is something which is very easy to miss. In any case, so I believe knight g5, which happened in our game, is a better move. And black played c6. So what would have happened if black plays h6, which also looks logical? Then we play knight e7 check. And yeah, black is in a lot of trouble. So for example, if king d8, then we can just take on e6, f e6, bishop takes on e5, bishop has to take knight g6, and pretty much everything is hanging here. So c6. And now another typical motif. So we already saw that this knight would jump to f5. Sorry, because of the awkward position of the e6 bishop. And now what we have to realize that many times the c takes d5 is not even a threat. Because after cd, the c file is opening for the king, and it will be exposed to some very serious mating attack. Therefore, the best move. So Barayev took on e6, which is quite a serious inaccuracy. The best move is just to be even more active than we are right now. So let's do like this. So knights are very active. This bishop is very active. This rook is very active, and with the bishop we cannot really do much. So bishop is normally, waiting piece, which if can join to the game, then black is in a huge trouble. But there is this very nice move now, bishop to g3, also opening the way for this rook. So now everything is really under attack, and black is under huge pressure, and probably the position is just losing at this moment for black. So for example, accepting the piece sacrifice is simply awful. So now bishop, if you take the bishop, the game is over. So bishop goes away. We take knight g4 and knight f7, attacking the rook, threatening some checkmate like ideas with rook c1. Black can throw in some pieces, but of course it will not help. So this is not possible. And we also introduce a very nice idea thanks to this rook. So rook e8. Again, if you would like to find this idea, I would recommend you to stop the video a little bit, spend some time maybe. Oh, fantastic move, knight to c7. It's a brilliant move, attacking both rooks. In any case, even if the rook is not coming to e8, it's working. So the king takes. Now knight takes on e6. Black takes with the f pawn. If rook takes, it's the same basically, but black is losing one extra pawn. And after f takes on e6, rook f7, basically the position is resignable. Both the d7 knight is hanging and the g7 bishop as well. Everything will collapse very, very soon. Black is completely tied up here. So this bishop g3, worth remembering, nice idea. So instead Barayev took on e6, f takes, and went knight e3. So it's normally, a sign that we did not play perfectly when we have to go backwards in this system. We don't really want to go backwards. So what's the problem now? Our problem is that black has a beautiful square here on e5, well supported, and also the entry squares like f7 and d7 on the open files are well covered at this moment. Plus, our pieces on e2 and e3 are not participating in the game. So black had even two very logical and very solid moves to make at this moment. One is h5. So I really like this move because it stops knight g4 ideas and also bishop g4 ideas. So it's a very useful move for the future. And let's not forget about maybe offering some trade of the dark square bishops, or to have or to play c5 and to have very firm control not only over e5 but also d4 squares, and maybe this knight can reroute in via c6 to d4, which is like a very strong outpost. And in both cases, black is completely fine. White is not worse, but I would rather be black, to be honest, in such position. So instead, black played knight c5, which is a little bit loose. So it's not an outpost. It's weakening the control over e5. And of course, instead of protecting on e4, Barayev plays very strong knight g4. So he wants to trade this strong knight and wants to involve the bishop in the game. It's very unpleasant. So black went knight e d7, which is very passive. If knight g4 was not better, so now e6 is a problem. Rook e8 and bishop e3. Again, maximum activity. Attacking the knight, we are down a pawn, but after rook f7, black's position is resignable. So 7th rank is going to be exploited very badly here. So knight e to d7. And again, we are not protecting material here, but white played very strong e5. So this e5 square, which was working so wonderfully for black to blockade the position and restrict white pieces, now is gone. And as the position gets more open, it will be more difficult for black to do anything against the bishops. So black played rook f8. If king c7, then b4. Very strong, with the idea that on knight e4 there is knight f6, for example. And with this discover check, huge problems for black. So just one possible line is bishop f6, ef, check, e5, and then bishop h6 is winning material very, very soon. I mean, bishop g4, f7 are our ideas, and whatever knight takes on f6, bishop g7 is picking up some material. It's up to black which one. So rook f8, bishop e3, and funny enough, again, a move which goes backwards is not the best. I mean, it's a good move, it's a very good move, but maybe again knight f6 was a little bit stronger. So the idea is that after knight takes, e takes f6, bishop f6 obviously simply losing to bishop d6, double attack, and rook f6, we again have a nice tactical idea, b4, knight e4, and then bishop e5. So it's also just some nice trick that after rook f1, bishop e5, rook f8, we are taking the rook. The game is not completely over, but the position is very open, so the rook is kind of favorite to convert this advantage. But I have played bishop e3, which once again also pretty good, king c7, and now played knight f6, very nice move. So also now the c5 knight is loose, so it's not really any kind of sacrifice. And we have ideas like b4 now to chase away this knight, and then d7 would be hanging. Therefore a5 was played by black. That was another interesting move, knight takes on e5. So it gives up this knight on c5, but black has rook f6. So the point is that after bishop d6, king b6, if it would take, it's a huge mistake, rook f1, and then black takes on e5 with an extra pawn. But instead we play c5 check, the king can only come to a5, and after rook d4, I mean, it's logical that checkmate is the biggest favorite in such positions. So like b4, b5, for example, is one idea, or b4, bishop d1. So the king is very close to be checkmated, and black is only up a pawn anyways. So a4 is much more human. Now Barayev took on h7. It's very logical, you know. It will make the position more open, and you know, more the game will be more on both sides of the board, and that's excellent for the bishops. So rook f1, bishop takes e5, and a little bit of a casual move here spoiled the nice advantage for white. b3 was absolutely not needed. It's a slow move, and this is not the spirit how we play in this variation, as I hope by now you could feel. So there is absolutely no reason not to play rook f7 with a huge tempo entering to the 7th rank, because this knight is hanging. Black plays something like knight e4. And even now with it, we simply don't care about the b2 pawn. I mean, we do our stuff. So we play c5, for example, here against knight d6, which wants to kick the rook from the 7th. So we play c5. And if black plays bishop b2, we play bishop d3, for example. Very hard to find a square for the knight. We can take on g6, or we can play some bishop f4. So position is collapsing for black very, very quickly here. And instead, this b3 gave a crucial tempo for black. He went rook h8, now rook f7. But the problem now that we cannot move this knight so quickly because h2 is hanging with the check. So after the correct move knight e4, white is not better simply here. So the problem is that if you play something like bishop d3, the game is just an immediate draw, because knight d6, rook e7, and because of this awkward placement of the knight c8, the rook has to keep in touch with the knight, and it is just a repetition. So the game would have ended like a draw this way. And if you play knight g5, allowing bishop takes h2, again, white has compensation here, but black is definitely fine. So, you know, such just one little bit casual move can spoil things. So we rather have to go for such ideas like rook f7. Okay, so rook h8, rook f7. but black missed this huge opportunity and went king d8, but then Barayev gave no more chance, so he played g3, excellent move. Point is that now the h2 pawn is not hanging and the knight can come back to g5. So basically the same thing happened now, knight e4, but now knight g5 is possible and there is no check. And that means the game is pretty much over here, bishop g5, king c7. So the material is equal, but we have the pair of bishops in an open position, plus black has weaknesses. Rook is on the 7th, so despite material equality, the position is hopeless for black. King g2 and rook f8 was played. I mean, yeah, it's simply not a holdable position, so it's I will not try to give some better advice for black because it doesn't exist, but trading the rooks normally favors, trading heavy pieces normally favors the pair of bishops, and this position is no exception. So bishop d3, eyeing the weakness on g6, bishop g7, and one last instructive moment, I believe here, that, and it's an endgame principle, do not rush. So if we immediately go for the material, so to take this g6 pawn, that would be a serious mistake, because with that we would enter some opposite colored bishop position, which as you know has very, very high drawing tendencies, and like especially when the pawns are only on one side, like as a possibility to promote, it's very, very difficult. I suspect this position is even objectively a draw. Of course, it would require long analysis and everything, which I didn't do this time. I mean, it's you can do if you are interested. I mean, but simply it's not needed. So Barayev rather played bishop d2, and that's the power of the bishop. So like they are looking here, but at the same time they can look also there. So if b6, then we play c5, creating more weaknesses, and eventually we have one extra piece to use, and that will decide the game. So black played a4, and just an extra pawn for us. So now everything is very simple. Even going for an opposite colored bishop endgame is good. So king d6 was played with the idea of king c5, bishop b4, nice move, c5, just returning. And black has no moves simply here. So king cannot come because bishop c3 check. I mean, bishop cannot go anywhere basically. We have already an extra pawn, and the king is once again just about to join. Black played knight d7, but with this idea of knight e5, but now because of this extra opportunity on the queen side, I mean extra opportunity, extra pawn in the queen side, white is just winning. So king e7, bishop e5, bishop e5. And again, I would recommend it for you at this moment to stop the video for a minute and try to find the best move. Because again, if you are a little bit careless here, it can get drawy. So I don't know, some king f3, b6, and it's again, it will be not trivial to win that position. But after a5, it is extremely trivial because not only we will have connected passers here, we will have an extra a pawn. So the game ended like bishop c7, bishop e4, takes, king f6, h4, king e5, and king f6, now a4. So both pawns are running at h5. So it's too much for the bishop and for the king to control everywhere on the board, and we already have h6 ideas. And if I am, yeah, I mean just winning in every way. But I believe on bishop d6. I would not play h6, but even that one is, I believe, just winning here. So black takes, and then a5, king d6, a6, king c7, and then a7. The pawn is unstoppable. So of course it's not needed, but it's some precise calculation. We can also go for this and win very easily. So in any case, black resigned this hopeless fight after h5. I hope you liked this game in the King's Indian. So if black wants to trick us a little bit with e5, I don't think we have to be to worried, we have to play very actively and create threats. And then this line objectively is very good for white.